home. Sorry, guys. Okay. So we've got our eyes a little tiny bit open. Relax. Relax your teeth. You can have them together, but not grinding. The tongue up behind your top teeth on the palate. That prevents the generation of saliva. Come down to your shoulders, your neck. If your neck is a little bit stiff, just turn it gently to parallel with your shoulder. Just once on each side, just to release the tension. You can shrug your shoulders just a little bit. As we move through the body, if you have pain in any part, the idea is to try and accept that it's there and breathe into it. So meditation won't cure your pain, but what you can do is try and focus on. We're going to be focusing on a mental activity and try and relax, accept that the pain is there, and we'll focus on something different. That should at least, usually what we do is we hold ourselves tightly against the pain. And to a large extent, that makes it worse. So we'll try and relax. Your arms should be a little bit away from your body so you don't get too hot. Your hands should be in your lap or on your knees, whichever is comfortable. If they're in your lap, your left hand holds right, representing wisdom and compassion. Come down to your feet. It's good if you're sitting in a chair, have your feet on a cushion or carpet or something. Just make sure that your legs are at right angles and your feet aren't too cold. Of course, the ideal posture is full lotus, which I don't think any of us can do. So whatever you can cope with. The main way to decide is to choose a posture you can hold reasonably steady for about 20 minutes. So having settled our body a little bit, we need to work on our mind, prepare our mind to meditate. So try and become present in the room, wherever you are, whether it's here in the Gompa or at home, wherever you're doing your meditation. Just become aware of your body and what you're sitting on, the feeling of your clothes, and what you can hear around you. You probably hear my voice, but you might be able to hear traffic. Or maybe if you're outside, you can hear bird noises or whatever. What we want to be doing is focusing on here and now, not on what we were worried about before, not on our plans for later, or what we were annoyed about. Try and be present with yourself. Okay. And think about why you decided to do this meditation. So why did you come to the Gompa, to this room? So you might be wanting to find a quiet place to meditate, get away from a noisy household. You may find it easier to meditate in a group. It's perfectly valid, because at least in this group, that's what we're all doing. Whereas often at home, other people are interrupting you because you're not looking busy. So this can be an easier thing to do. But think for yourself why you decided to meditate today. We all have lots of different reasons why we might want to do something. And the reason you want to clarify your aim, your purpose, is so you can fulfill that purpose. The clearer you are about what you hope to gain, the more chance you will gain it. In a broader view, you might be looking for peace of mind. In this tradition, at Buddha House, we're looking for enlightenment, not just for ourselves, but so that we can help all other living beings. Because although we'd all like to be free of suffering, and once we've worked that out, we work out that we want our loved ones, the people we like, care about, we want all them to be free of suffering. And really, the difficulty is we can't guarantee our own happiness for a day or a week. How could we possibly guarantee the happiness of others? This is well beyond our capacity. We don't know how. Enlightenment is the how. And what we call bodhicitta is the motivation. So we want to become enlightened so we can help all sentient beings become enlightened. And we'll express that idea in a little book. We'll say in English, Taking Refuge and Generating Bodhicitta on page 1 of the booklet. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. We'll say the 4 immeasurables just once in English. Just bearing in mind this is an aspirational prayer. We're trying to include in this all sentient beings, so all beings who have mind. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that's free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Okay. So we're going to do some mindfulness of breathing, which is to say, watching our own breath is the focus of this meditation. All we're trying to do, simple instruction, hard to do, but what we want to concentrate on is watching our own breath, breathing in and breathing out. That looks too hard to do on its own. What you can do is count. I'm breathing in 1, I'm breathing out 1. I'm breathing in 2, I'm breathing out 2. You just keep the count going as long as you're completely focused on your own breath. And if you can get to 7, you probably can let go of the counting. You don't need to keep going. Don't be too disturbed if you lose focus. We all get distracted. The heart of this exercise is bringing your mind back to watching the breath, breathing in and breathing out. So just watching your breath. We'll leave that part of the meditation here. So have a stretch. Feel free to stand up if you need to. Have a sip of water. The next part we're going to do is an analytical meditation, which is to say, instead of focusing on just that single thing, the breath, as we've just been doing, we're going to use the calm that we've hopefully generated to use our logical mind to analyse a concept from the Graduated Path to Enlightenment, from the Lam Rim. And today's topic is equanimity. Last week we looked at the Four Noble Truths, which is understanding that there is suffering and that there's something we can do about it. The path, the Lam Rim path, is the method, is how you logically step your mind through what's possible. One of the vital stages is equanimity. So generating in our own mind, our own heart, equanimity, which means to think of and treat beings as equally valuable. So when we say it's the four immeasurables, we say, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So in this meditation, we're going to think about that quite a lot more. What do we mean by that? Trying to think of all beings, all sentient beings, that is, all beings who have mind, as equally worthwhile. So whether they're our friends or our enemies or beings we don't know, of course, the vast majority of beings are strangers. We might, if you're really, really gregarious, you might know 1,000 people to talk to. You might have 1,000, you might have 10,000 followers if you're really good on YouTube. And you might have a few enemies, people you think of as not helpful to you or who don't like you or whatever. Maybe they've wronged you in the past. You think of as enemy. Hopefully there's not very many of those because we kind of tend to be very negative towards those people. But the vast majority, the rest of the 8.5 billion people on this planet, are strangers. We don't know them. We don't meet them. We might read some stuff about them in a newspaper or online, but we have no idea actually personally what they're like. We make assumptions based on reports we get, but we don't know them, and they don't impact, well, they may impact our lives, but they're not our personal enemy or our personal friend. And of course, the vast majority of animals, insects, fish, birds, whatever, they're all strangers as well. But they all have mind. In this tradition, the idea is that they have equally the possibility of becoming a Buddha. So they have Buddha potential. Okay, so if you'd like to resume your meditation posture, and we'll try and think about some ideas that will let us assess that. The idea with analytical meditation is that you use your logical mind to assess the idea that's presented. Does it make any sense to you? And if it doesn't make sense to you, perhaps leave it alone. If it's true for you, similarly, try and work out, does it make sense in your life? What's its application in your life? And if it doesn't have application or you don't think it's true, again, leave it alone. Wait for the next idea. And Just try and logically tear apart the concept, make certain for you whether it makes sense. And if it does all make sense, then you can try and focus it a bit more clearly and try and focus on that so you can remember it. Okay. We'll start with a quote from Shantideva. He's one of the Indian masters who wrote Bodhisattva's Way of Life. All other virtues are like the plantain tree, for after bearing fruit, they simply perish. But the perennial tree of the awakening mind unceasingly bears fruit and thereby flourishes without end. If you think about your mind, and hopefully what we're trying to do is awaken it a bit, lift a little bit. Become more aware of what we're doing and saying and thinking, how we treat people and all other beings. The benefits of doing that are long term. Just think whether, for you, whether you're a bit more aware of those things now than you were a year ago. How you talk to people, how you think of them, how you treat them. Maybe a reasonable measure of that is how you think of the other users on the road, other people driving. So all of us who are using the road are trying to get somewhere, using a car, probably, or a truck. And sometimes we get annoyed. People cut in front of us or don't indicate properly or whatever. They're not committing a major crime, but they can be annoying. Do you have a bit more empathy for how that person might be behaving? What's motivating them? That kind of thing. So we've got to think about 3 categories of people and indeed 3 categories of beings. So enemies, a disturbing enemy. Try and think of person who disturbs you greatly, who really just annoys you. So it might be a boss who drives you crazy. It might be a family member that you just can't stop arguing with, someone you work with, a neighbour. Just pick one person. Don't do all of them at once, just one. Just visualize them in front of you. And try and remember what it was that made you enemies in the first place. Something they said, something they did. And were they always enemies? Do you imagine they'll always be enemies in the future? That's kind of unrealistic. Generally, people who are enemies now were at the very least strangers at some time. Everyone starts off as a stranger. We meet them, we might make a quick judgment and not get on with them at all, but they'll be a stranger at some point. And sometimes enemies can become friends. Often enemies can become strangers again because we don't see them. We forget about them. They're not important to us. Think about a friend, so not a close loved one, not your intimate partner, a friend, someone you care about, but who you would think of as someone who helps you. Towards whom you probably feel warm feelings. And again, think, how did they become my friend? Did they just start working with me? And we hit it off from the day one? Maybe someone you went to school with, so you both experienced a similar experience, learning different things together. Someone you share a recreation with, an interest in common. Again, there's probably a time when they were a stranger. Have they always been your friend? Kind of unlikely. Will they always be your friend? Again, kind of unlikely. People change, and so do we. Know that's true because the number of people who get married and then divorced. In a broader picture, politics. Plenty of people in the same party argue with each other. People swap sides, change their views about things, decide they dislike someone. And whole countries, friendly for a while, next time you look, they're having a war. So someone being your friend now isn't permanent, but neither is their enemy. Strangers are just everyone else. So when you think about your friends and your enemies, what we need to be able to do is treat them equally. That is, you won't treat them the same, but have a similar value for their life. Just because I don't like someone or I disagree with their view doesn't mean they aren't a whole person and doesn't mean they aren't entitled to their view. Doesn't mean they don't have Buddha nature. They might even become enlightened before I can. This is not a bad thing. So one of the few things we can do as a human that we couldn't do in any other kind of life is to become enlightened. Can't really do that from being an animal. So my purpose in life is to improve myself, to become more aware, to awaken my mind. And that's the purpose of every living being. In the case of every human, that's the more likely thing they can do. So as much as I can, I should try to treat people as being of similar value. So we all want to be happy. We all want not to suffer. The most positive thing we can do, all of us, is to become enlightened and to fulfill our potential being a Buddha. So it's really useful to remember that the present friend, enemy and stranger have not always been our friend, enemy and stranger. Even in this life, and certainly if we can look into past countless lives. A quote from Shakyamuni Buddha: if one tries to befriend an enemy for a moment, he becomes your friend. The same thing occurs when one treats a friend as an enemy. Therefore, knowledgeable ones are not attached to food, clothing, or reputation, nor to friends or enemies, because they understand the impermanence of temporal relationships. The father becomes the son in another life. The mother can become the wife. Enemy can become a friend. It always changes. Therefore, nothing is definite in samsara. There is no reason to be attached to friends or to hate the enemy. And when we're trying to generate patience for ourselves so that we don't become angry, the enemy is the object of my practice of patience to help me control my anger. I should not hate the enemy who, by the strength of this practice, brings peace to my mind. So the idea is to strive to hold every sentient being, thinking of them continually as needing happiness and its causes. Try and be happy when we see other beings create even the tiniest merit. Because there's no difference between me and all other beings. Or are looking for satisfaction. We desire not to have any suffering. Just finish that meditation here. I will just say a dedication prayer. The idea of this is to try and save our merits and try and fix in our mind any conclusions we might have come to, or insights we might have gained. On page 2 and 3 in the little prayer book, if you want to join in, just once in English. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the precious body-mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. May the precious right view, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Thank you. Okay. Okay, if it's the 19th, okay, so some people are probably at the Daytong Ling retreat, which is not us, it's on Kangaroo Island. Meditations are back in force, so Monday night, Tuesday at 10, Thursday at 10, and the Sunday mornings, the 4 sets of meditation are going on. But teachings haven't started. Saturday, this Saturday coming, the 25th, is an episode of Conversations That Matter. So anyone can come to that on Saturday morning at 10:30. I think they're on once a month. And you could go to that. Calendars are out in the corridor if you want one. Okay, this is, there's a public holiday somewhere there. So it must be next weekend. Monday's the public holiday, the 27th. Okay. Okay, and our teacher's still away. Now, before our regular teacher comes back, next month, 15th, 16th, 15th to the 18th, so 4 days, Geshe Tugdun Sherab, he's coming for a visit. He's a traditional Tibetan teacher, but he speaks English quite well. And he'll teach a weekend workshop, and then he'll teach on Tuesday night. So if you want to come to those, it's probably worth having a look at that. So, thank you for this Sunday. Enjoy your day. Try not to get too hot.